Have you ever wondered what it takes to save a symbol of freedom? Brace yourself for a tale of courage, compassion, and the unbreakable bond between man and nature. The storm had raged for hours, beating down on the Carter family's farm at the edge of the valley. Rain poured in sheets, thunder rolled endlessly across the dark skies, and wind ripped branches from towering pines like they were nothing more than twigs. When dawn finally broke, the land bore scars of the night's fury. Ethan Carter, a seasoned farmer in his late 40s, ventured out into the wreckage. He had lived in Montana's mountain country all his life, and storms were nothing new, but this one was worse than most. Fallen trees littered the property, fences lay crushed, and the creek had swollen into a brown, angry torrent. He slung his chainsaw over his shoulder and prepared for a long day of clearing. But as he trekked deeper into the woods at the back of his property, he noticed something unusual. Near a great white pine that had fallen during the night, a sharp, desperate cry echoed through the damp morning air. Ethan paused. It wasn't the cry of a hawk or the chatter of a crow. It was deeper, strained, almost ... majestic. He followed the sound. At the base of the fallen pine, partly hidden beneath its immense trunk, lay a bald eagle. Its wings were pinned by a heavy branch, its golden eyes wide with pain and defiance. Each time it tried to move, the branch pressed harder against its feathers, forcing a cry from its beak. Ethan's heart skipped. He had seen bald eagles many times soaring high above the valley, symbols of freedom and strength. But to see one so vulnerable, trapped, broken, utterly helpless, was something entirely different. "Easy there, fella, ... Ethan murmured, crouching down. The eagle, sensing him, flared its good wing and let out a warning scream. Its talons slashed at the air, but the trapped body made the movement weak. Ethan pulled back slightly, his breath fogging in the cold air. He knew eagles were dangerous, even injured ones. One wrong move, and those talons could slice through his arm. But leaving it here wasn't an option. Storm had taken enough lives last night. He wouldn't let it take this one too. Ethan studied the tree. The branch pinning the eagle was thick, maybe 10 inches across, too heavy to move by hand. His chainsaw was the only option. But running a chainsaw so close to the bird was risky. The noise, the vibration, the flying splinters could terrify it. Make it thrash and injure itself further. Still, there was no other way. "All right, buddy," Ethan whispered, more to calm himself than the eagle. "We'll get you out." He pulled off his flannel shirt and, moving slowly, draped it over the eagle's head. The bird squawked, struggling, but then grew still. Darkness often calmed wild animals, he remembered from farm life. With careful hands, he secured the shirt loosely, enough to shield its eyes but not hinder its breathing. The eagle's chest rose and fell rapidly beneath the cloth, but at least it no longer watched his every move with piercing golden fury. Ethan positioned his chainsaw at the base of the branch. He pulled the cord. The engine roared to life, echoing across the quiet, broken woods. He steadied himself, hands firm despite the adrenaline coursing through him. Sparks of sawdust flew as the blade bit into the branch. The vibrations shook the trunk, and even under the shirt the eagle began to writhe. "Just hold on," Ethan shouted over the chainsaw. The smell of fresh pine filled the air. Bit by bit, the chainsaw chewed through the wood. Sweat stung Ethan's eyes despite the cold morning. Every second felt like a gamble if the branch shifted wrong. It could crush the eagle completely. Finally, with a groaning crack, the branch gave way. Ethan lunged, grabbing the cut portion and rolling it aside. For the first time, the eagle's wings were free. He killed the chainsaw. Silence swept back over the forest, broken only by the eagle's sharp, ragged breathing. Ethan knelt and gently lifted the shirt. The eagle blinked in the sudden light, confused and weak. Its right wing stretched painfully, feathers bent at odd angles. Blood matted its leg where bark had scraped it raw. "You're in rough shape," Ethan murmured. The eagle tried to stand but collapsed almost immediately, one talon curling into the dirt. Ethan knew it couldn't fly, not today, maybe not for weeks. The nearest wildlife rehabilitation center was nearly 50 miles away. He'd have to bring it there if it had any chance. But transporting a wild eagle? That was another challenge entirely. He jogged back to his truck and returned with a heavy blanket and an old dog crate from his barn. With slow, deliberate movements, he wrapped the blanket around the eagle. It thrashed once, talons cutting into the fabric, but Ethan held firm. He eased the great bird into the crate, sliding the door shut. The eagle slumped, exhausted but alive. The drive down the mountain road was long and tense. Every bump made the eagle shift, feathers rustling inside the crate. Ethan spoke to it as though it were a passenger. "You'll make it," he said softly. "You're tougher than this storm." When he finally pulled into the wildlife center, staff rushed to meet him. Their eyes widened as he opened the truck bed and revealed the crate. "A bald eagle?" one whispered. Ethan nodded. A tree had it pinned. "Cut it free." The handlers carried the crate inside, their practiced hands moving with efficiency. Ethan followed, heart pounding as if it were his own child on the table. Veterinarians discovered that the eagle, a mature male they nicknamed Freedom, had suffered a fractured wing and several deep lacerations. But thanks to Ethan's quick action, no bones had been shattered beyond repair. Surgery stabilized the fracture, and rehabilitation began. Ethan visited when he could, watching through the observation window as Freedom strengthened day by day. At first, the bird merely stood in the enclosure, feathers ruffled. Then, weeks later, it flapped its wings tentatively. Finally, after months of care, Freedom soared once more across the large flight pen, his powerful body reclaiming the skies. Ethan felt a swell of pride he hadn't known since raising his own children. On a clear morning in late spring, Ethan was invited back. Wildlife officials carried Freedom now, fully healed, to a hill overlooking the valley. Ethan stood among them, chainsaw far behind him now, replaced by awe. The cage door opened. For a moment the eagle hesitated, head swiveling, eyes scanning the open world. Then, with a mighty thrust of his wings, he lifted into the air. He circled once, twice, and for a heartbeat seemed to gaze down at the man who had freed him. Then he rose higher, disappearing into the endless blue. Ethan felt tears sting his eyes. Round him the forest still bore scars of the storm, but above Freedom soared as if nothing could ever chain him again. Neighbors often asked Ethan why he risked so much for a wild bird. He never had a simple answer. Perhaps it was respect for the untamed spirit of the eagle, for the land they both called home. Or perhaps it was because, in a world too often divided, saving something bigger than yourself just felt right. And so the story spread. How a farmer with a chainsaw saved an eagle from the wreckage of a storm. A tale of grit, compassion, and the unyielding bond between man and nature. In the valley, whenever an eagle's shadow swept across the fields, Ethan Carter would glance up and smile, wondering if it was reminding him of the day the chainsaw cut, more than would it cut despair away and gave flight back to the sky.